The one is always seeking to manifest itself through you. That one is always seeking to manifest itself through you. That creator within us is constantly wanting to bring itself into our experience as new things in our lives, as new experiences, as tangible things, as relationships, as abundance and prosperity and all of those wonderful things that we're seeking. The one is constantly looking for an outlet, a place where it can come through. You know, here at Centers for Spiritual Living, we practice a philosophy that is part of the New Thought philosophy. It's called Science of Mind. And in there is this main premise that the divine is inherent within each individual. So that spirit, whatever you want to call it, God, spirit, the universe, energy, power, presence, whatever you want to call it, it is inside of each one of us. It is manifesting itself through us. It experiences the world around us as us. And so we are constantly looking for ways for that to be show up in our experiences here. And so it shows up through our thoughts, our feelings, our intentions, into our reality as an expression of the divine coming through us. Now sometimes we experience things and we can't help but think to ourselves, yeah, that's not very divine. That's not exactly what I wanted to experience right now. But it is constantly showing up, and it shows up better when we clarify what it is we want, what it is our beliefs are, what our intentions are, what it is we want to experience. When we get clear about that, then Spirit answers us clearly. At its core, it speaks to this divine potential that is inherent in every living individual and the power of aligning with the divine nature. Aligning with spiritual truth is what gives our intentions power, our thoughts, and so forth. And so to awaken the Creator within us, we first must recognize that truth that I just spoke about, the fundamental fact that Spirit is within us, and it is showing up as us. To awaken this, we must begin to perceive God as an internal presence rather than an external presence. We have to eliminate that belief that many of us were brought up with, that God is this external being sitting somewhere in heaven on a throne, looking down on us and deciding what it is we get to experience. We have to let that one go and begin to understand that we are co-creators with the universe, and it is going to come through us. And again, it's as we begin to clarify that in our own belief system, then we begin to have a different experience. You know, we have to understand that we are not separate from the divine, that we are all expressions of it. Each one of us uniquely, perfectly, just the way that we're showing up right here and right now, we are a perfect expression of the divine. Why would it want to be anything different than what it is as it experiences life? It's looking for places for new experiences. And if everybody looked the same, then the experiences would be the same. We wouldn't have the variety and the joy of seeing something new come into creation. So each one of us carries within us that potential for divine wisdom, divine love, for creativity of all sorts in our lives. You know, we are not separate from the divine. We are expressions of it. We are not separate from the divine. We are simply a unique expression of it. So to awaken the Creator within, we have to begin to really understand that, really get clear about that. So when we say the Creator within, we are acknowledging that each person here has a direct connection to that divine source, that each one of us is a conduit through which Spirit shows up in the world. It doesn't happen to me and not to someone else. It doesn't happen to people in one country and not to people in another country. It doesn't happen to one group of people in a different faith and not to another faith. It is happening through all of us. And we understand that to the degree that we understand our relationship with Spirit, to the degree that we begin to really understand that we are not separate from it. We are constantly struggling through life to recognize ourselves as being divine beings, having human experiences. And the problem is, again, when we experience those things we don't want to have happen in our lives, it kind of makes us forget that it actually is Spirit moving through us. It's showing up as us. How are we to know that we didn't need to experience some of the troubles that we've had in our lives to get us to the place that we're at right now? For me, that was one of the most liberating thoughts I ever had in my life, was that I had to experience every single thing that I went through to be in the place where I am right now, and I really love where I am right now. And so once we begin to soften around our experiences that we didn't want to have, we begin to soften around that and think, okay, what was going on for me? Maybe I needed to clarify my thoughts a little bit better. Maybe I needed to set an intention a little bit better. Maybe I needed to be participating in my life more than reacting to it. That's one of the things that we often do, is we feel like victim is kind of a strong word, but we are at the effect of whatever's happening around us. One of my favorite authors, Joel Goldsmith, describes it this way, that we often feel like we are pendulums in the wind, swinging whichever way the wind blows. Anybody ever felt that in their life? Yeah, I know I certainly have. That sometimes whatever's happening around me has created such a whirlwind that I'm at the effect of it, as opposed to directing my life myself. So when we do this, when we get clear about our understanding of God, one of the fundamental ways that I've really become to understand this is through the work of Ken Wilber. Ken Wilber is the founder of a huge church in Southern California called Saddleback. It's a mega church, one of the mega Christian churches there. And he is a prolific author, and his work is really powerful. I studied several books in ministerial school from him. But this one, he talks about what he calls the three faces of God. And so the three faces of God are the three different aspects that we often come to understand as we are developing our relationship with Spirit. And so a simple way of saying that is we are either talking about God, or we're talking with God, or we're talking as God. So those are three aspects of the three faces of God. If we're talking about God, we refer to God in the third person. Now here at Centers for Spiritual Living, we often use the pronoun it. If you have an understanding of God as He, that's fine for you. To me, he or she limits God. I like to use the pronoun it for it. You could also use the pronoun they, making it more encompassing, as it's all things, all beings. But it's in third person, as we learned when we were learning grammar back in elementary school. Third person, we're talking about it. This is what we do when we start our treatments, our prayers off. We are doing the stage that we call recognition, and in that stage we are doing nothing but talking about God, describing the magnificence of Spirit and how it works through us. When we talk about God, we are exploring the teachings, the philosophies that help us understand the nature of the divine. New Thought teaches us that God has, we call them the three omnis. It's omnipotent, omniscient, and omnipresent. So it's all-powerful, all-knowing, and always there for us. And so when we begin to understand that third face of God, the it face, then we begin to understand the power of God as it moves through us. The second face of God is when we are talking with God, or you might even be talking to God at this time. But it's that when we're using that pronoun you, when I'm having a conversation with Spirit, when I am at a place where I am communing with it, where I can feel it as a close friend or a benevolent part of me, that part that is all good, all wonderful, always manifesting itself for the highest and greatest good in my life. And then I'm communing with it, I'm discussing it. It makes it not distant, it brings it right into that close relationship that I have with God. It's the one that we do oftentimes when we're maybe in meditation or contemplation or even prayer, where we're communing with Spirit. We're saying, I know that you know what is for my highest and greatest good, and I'm turning it over to you. There's a great deal of surrender in that kind of an aspect of it. But because I've developed this relationship with it, I'm not afraid to surrender to it. And so I begin to cultivate this personal and deep friendship with Spirit. And then remember in this, we're not asking or begging or petitioning or bartering with God in here. We're just having a conversation with God. Like, God, I don't know how to do this, but I know you do. And so I'm just going to let you do it until I get clear about what it is I need to do. Again, Joel Goldsmith talks about forgiveness this way when he's talking with God. And he has this terrible situation, and he wants to forgive this person, but he's so angry right now he can't forgive it. And he says this is the prayer he uses. He says, God, I can't forgive right now, but I know you can. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let you do the forgiveness work until I can do it for myself. Doesn't that feel liberating? It's like I've done something here. I know I've taken those first steps towards forgiveness, but I know that I'm not in a place where I can do it yet. So I'm going to turn it over to Spirit. And I know Spirit will do the work that's necessary for it to be done until I get to a place where I can do the work myself. That's the second face of God. The first face of God is the mystical teachings. This is the mystical teachings of the ancient Jewish text, the Torah. This is the mystical teachings of Jesus that he spoke so eloquently about. This is the I am that I am, the first person. This is me speaking as God, as knowing deep in my soul that I am one with that indwelling presence and speaking from that place. Now that's a place of power. That's a place of transformation. When we get to that understanding that I am, there's no ego in this. This isn't me setting myself above anyone else, because I also know that just because I am, and I've got clear about that, that doesn't mean that Merlin is not, and that doesn't mean that Fran is not. That means that each one of us is that presence of God right here and right now. And again, there's no ego, or there's no, what's the word? It's not sanctimonious, it's not sacrilegious, it's not any of those things that we often think of if I say I am God. I am that place where God shows up. The very place on which I stand is holy ground. Why? Because God's there. I know that it's in my soul, I know it's in my being, and I have that deep, abiding understanding of it. Again, it's not arrogance, it's not ego, but it's rather a deep spiritual realization that the divine is expressing itself through me, as me, right here and right now. This is as I said, what Jesus said when he said, I and my Father are one. He used the term Abba. Abba means, it's like an endearing term for a father. And so when they translated the Bible, it turned into Father, which meant that Jesus was God's Son. And so that whole distorted relationship that Jesus is the only Son of God, which Jesus was very clear he's not. He said it very clearly himself. This and so much more you can do. You can do just exactly what I've done when you get to that understanding that I and my Father are one. The kingdom of God is within you. That's what he's talking about there. So to awaken the Creator within, we have to understand and integrate all three faces, three dimensions of God, talking with God, talking to God, talking as God, and talking about God. We have to begin to integrate all three of those, because the divine shows up in all three at the same time. And so as we begin to get clearer with that, about each one of those levels gives us a deeper understanding of our own divine nature, and it empowers us to live from the sacred within us. It empowers us to allow the Creator to move through us and show up as us. So, again, New Thought teaches that we embrace all three aspects of this divine dialogue, this way of talking with, about, and as God. I keep wanting to put the two in there, and it really, with and to are the same. And we have to begin to realize that we are not just recipients of it, but we're active participants. We are active participants in what is happening in us. Again, we have to become conscious of our thoughts and the beliefs that we hold, and all of those hidden things that we've had throughout our life experience that have made us believe things are a certain way when that might not be the truth for us. We've internalized what we call the race consciousness thoughts, all of those thoughts that are around us. We internalize those, and then they act without us even thinking about it, become unconscious beliefs. And again, we want to change our thinking to change the experience that we have in lives. And so we use our spiritual practices, our affirmations, our visualizations, our visioning, and our spiritual mind treatment, which is our form of affirmative prayer, to begin to change that. And when we do that, we can consciously choose our words and thoughts and align ourselves with the truth of who we really are. We align ourselves with those three faces of God and understand that it shows up in all those different ways. Then we become divine creators ourselves, allowing the Spirit to move through us and bring about our highest and greatest good, the highest thing that we want to experience in life. But by consciously choosing our thoughts and words and aligning ourselves, we are guaranteed to manifest our good in our lives. And again, to awaken the Creator within, we have to develop a mindset of spiritual alignment. We have to understand that we are not separate from it, that it is active in us, and that we are participants in our experience. When we do that, our outer world begins to shift and reflect that alignment, that spiritual alignment. It just happens without us even thinking about it. How many of you have ever sat back and think, wow, my life's a lot different than it used to be, and I'm not really sure what I did to get there. Anybody have that idea? I know every once in a while it kind of overwhelms me. It's like, wow, I used to think this way, and I don't anymore. I understand my spiritual nature better. So when we align with these truths, we create a vibrational match within us for the experiences that we want to attract into our lives. Again, our outer world begins to reflect our inner state of consciousness. And when we do this and we align with that divine flow, we can then speak our truth, create our reality, and express the fullness of that divine potential within us. So again, what I said this earlier, but a very critical aspect of it is to move from reacting to life to creating what we want to experience. Instead of just be at the whims of whatever's happening in the world around us, we begin to create a new experience. And there's ways that we can do that. You know, we can, early on in my spiritual journey, the first thing I did was stop watching TV, especially news. I stopped watching it for a long time. I then had to reintegrate it into my life in a way where I could watch it and know spiritual truth at the same time. But it took a while. It took several years for that to happen. I began to turn away from the things that were happening in the world around me and focus on my inner work, focus on my spiritual development. And that allowed me to get out of that state of reaction and get to a place where I am more proactive about what is happening in my life. I take steps that are more in tune with who I want to be and how I want to experience things, instead of just becoming that victim of circumstances. Anybody ever feel like a victim of circumstances? We are not victims of circumstance. We are co-creators of a reality. Say that with me. We are not victims of circumstance. We are co-creators of our reality. When we think we're a victim, we are in that first lower level of state of consciousness there, where we are just subject to whatever happens in the world around us. But as we begin to understand that we can have a different experience, we move up in our level of consciousness to that place where we begin to be those co-creators. In Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, I used this quote last week, but it's so perfect, I wanted to share it again. This is from our textbook, The Science of Mind, right in the beginning pages of it. We are thinking, willing, knowing, conscious centers of life. We are surrounded by and immersed in, and there is flowing through us a creative something. We are absolutely at the heart of the divine. It is in us. It permeates every cell in our being. It is what has brought us into form, and it is what is living its life through us. We are thinking, willing, knowing, conscious centers of life. And when we do this, we begin to understand that the sum total of our thought and our will and our intentions and our beliefs create according to that sum total. We create our experience according to the total of our beliefs. Now, there are some things that can help us really begin that. Those things are faith and trust. And as we begin to develop our faith in that creative power, that presence, that divine thing that is moving through us, an inner knowing starts to develop that the universe is inherently good. We can look out in the world and see evidence of bad all around us. But if we have the faith and the knowing that the universe is inherently good, those things don't affect us. They don't come as they say in the Bible, none of these things come nigh my dwelling place, because I don't dwell there anymore. I'm not looking for the bad. I'm understanding that the world is inherently good. So when we embark on this journey of awakening that creator within, it is essential that we cultivate faith. And it's essential that we also begin to trust. Trust what we are hearing as we sit in meditation and listen for spirit moving through us. Trust what it is we are feeling. Trust it in the beliefs that we have. And trust in the process. When we trust in that process, we let go of fear and doubt and worry and all of those things. We no longer have a need to control all the details. Anybody else out there like to control all the details? Yeah, I knew I was alone in that. We have to align with spiritual principles. We have to understand what the spiritual principles are. That's why some of our practices like spiritual study are so powerful. When we begin to read about these principles and understand how they are operating in our lives, then we begin to get a sense of, this is something I can trust in. I can have faith in the universe, always acting for my highest and greatest good, and I can trust that it's happening right now in my life. This is when we begin to act from a place of love and a place of possibility, instead of being the reaction to the world around us. So faith and trust, they are empowering us. They empower us to step into the unknown with confidence. Just take that unapologetic leap of faith out there and just step into it and say, okay, these are things that I have proven in my life. I know they work. I have faith in them. I trust the process. And so I'm going to step out into the unknown and see what happens. What a wonderful way that is to live, to actually begin to think, wow, I can surrender to the flow of life. I can embrace new possibilities that might not yet be visible to me. I can take a chance and see what happens in my life. So again, awakening that creator is that invitation to recognize our divine nature, to have faith and trust in it, to harness that creative power of thought through our spiritual practices of affirmation, visualization, meditation, prayer, and to actually live in that place of alignment with spiritual truth, alignment with the highest and greatest good that is happening through us right now. It's about moving from a place of reaction to a place of intentional creation. It's about cultivating faith and trust, and ultimately it's about becoming that divine creator of our lives right now. So I want to close here with a little affirmation. This comes from Ernest Holmes, again, our founder. So would you repeat with me? I awaken to the truth. I embrace my divine potential, and I create a life that reflects the magnificence of spirit within me. Awaken, align, and reflect that truth. It's a powerful process. Let's take this into our spiritual practice of prayer. I invite our spiritual practitioners to stand and surround us. These beloveds have spent 4 years minimum in spiritual study, understanding these principles, understanding the practices that we use, learning to put those into action in their lives. They are tested and paneled and legally licensed to be spiritual practitioners for our community. And so we are so blessed to have them. We spent yesterday in a retreat together, and what a magnificent experience that was. So as they get themselves ready here, I just invite you to take in a nice deep breath. Maybe let your shoulders drop and sink into your chair, knowing that you are fully grounded and supported in this moment, that the presence of the divine is right here, right now. It is active in each one of us. It is the presence that is us. It is moving through us, as us, all around us and within us. For nothing exists outside of this one. Each one of us is a perfect emanation of that divine creator, of a love so powerful it could do nothing else but express itself through each and every one of us. And knowing this truth, I know that each one of us is a place and a possibility for divine creation. I know that each one of us is manifesting the life that we are wanting to have in our lives right now, the life of possibility, a life of creation, a life of love and joy and abundance and blessings in all kinds of ways. I know this is the truth of us. It's who we are. It's who we were brought here to be. It is what we are in all of our essence. And how good it is to know this, how good it is to feel it and to see it happening right here and right now. How good it is to actually feel that vibrational energy of manifestation happening through this community. And I just simply release this word into the law, into that creative power that always says yes, that has no limitations, that doesn't even know the word no. I let it go and I let it be. And together we say, and so it is.